The idea is if they're going to be having some extra 60 million in cap space, we're also looking at a situation whereby would a top player in Edmonton want to resign even with the fact that they had a disappointing end to their season. Hello, good afternoon. This is Taiwan Ojobi, your host on Lanunasis Maple Sports. We're here to bring you some unfiltered opinion, sharp analysis, and big love for Canadian hoops and eyes. We've really not had the opportunity to talk about hockey for a while, and that's because I was waiting for the first round to go off, and it's been a very, very interesting first round, and we're going to be diving into some of the things that have really gone wrong within the first round. But before I go into all of that, I want to say, today's a good day, wonderful weather. Try something new and, just try to push one step further towards achieving your dreams. I would like to start with talking about the Edmonton Oilers. Just like McDavid said in his interview, I spent some time to listen to his interview and some of the other platforms that he has had the opportunity of talking about the Edmonton Oilers. They've been an average team all season. You really can't blame them for the way, they've played so far in this first round against a very young Anaheim Ducks team. And one of the things I really wanted to talk about basically is the fact that if you look at some of the numbers, this is the same year they also had Winter Olympics. And a lot of those players went to the Winter Olympics not even 100%. They were completely banged up. They came back, they had some injuries. If you look at Crosby too had some injuries before the end of the Olympics, and he couldn't even help the Penguins kind of develop, some of their positioning on their divisions across board. And at the end of the day, Crosby was also able to galvanize the team, but they still couldn't get past the first round. But, that's a team that is also aging as well. Crosby has been in the league for more than 17 years of his life. So he's definitely getting to the end of his career, and he has won 2 championships with that team. So it's good. It's good for us to say that he has achieved, to a certain degree, some major milestones with the Penguins. But that being said, we want to go back to the Oilers. Looking at the structure of the Oilers, I can tell you clearly that they've been an average team all season. One of the things that killed them against this young Anaheim Ducks team is because the Oilers are still trying to fix their goaltending issues. There are times in the season where they were moving between Jared and Connor Ingram. You could tell clearly that Connor Ingram is their main guy now, because in the last game that they were defeated by the Anaheim Ducks, which was game 6, of the first round, you will notice that it was a difficult decision. Even with Jared's performance in game 5, they had to go with Connor Ingram in game 6 just to try and see how we can help them, turn the hands of time and, try to see if they can force a game 7. But that being said, I can tell you clearly that Connor Ingram is now like the preferred candidate for them to be able to go into the next season. But however, presently now, Edmonton Oilers have about another 16.9 million to be able to spend in the new season, which means that they'll be able to try and use it to bring in some more players. But the idea is if they're going to be having some extra 60 million in cap space, we're also looking at a situation whereby would a top player in Edmonton want to resign even with the fact that they had a disappointing end to their season. Another compensation they can also look at is Tampa Bay Lightning. They were very, very powerful throughout the season. They qualified, top of their division. But at the end of the day, they were out of the first round against a very good Montreal Canadiens team. And we're going to come back to that. But going back to the Oilers team, so I'm looking at a McDavid. Would a McDavid really want to renew after his 2 years deal? That's a big question. Would the Edmonton Oilers as a franchise want to sell him or want to trade him before the end of the season? That's another tough question. Another thing we're also looking at is they've gone to the finals back-to-back, 2024, 2025, and now 2026, they're out in the first round against the young Anaheim Ducks team. These are some of the reasons why I feel that they couldn't go around the first round. Number one, the team was completely banged up. All those players are injured. They are just managing themselves. And they won't come out to the media to say that they're injured. A lot of them are just managing. McDavid was doubtful in this complete first round series. It was not looking like he was going to be able to play, but he just showed up. They were able to patch him up. The medical team, they were able to, give them the right support to be able to just, patch him up and let him come out and, show his talent. But at the end of the day, he was not really at his best in this entire series. And that's why he was not the typical McDavid you see, playing across California and coming back to Edmonton all throughout the series. However, if they had gone ahead and they had finished number one in the division in the Pacific, in that particular division, especially with the fact that they were considered as the weakest division. If they had finished, if the Edmonton Oilers had finished number one in that division, they would have had to face the Vegas Kings, which is the Vegas Golden Knights, and they would have been able to beat that team, especially with the way the team is presently constructed. And if you look at it generally, because I've said it a couple of times that if you're looking at the way this team is presently constructed, they are a team that can go deep in the playoffs. They have everything it takes to be able to go deep in the playoffs. All they just need to do is have all those players playing at a very high level. So if you look at some of the things, their penalty kills was very bad. Throughout the regular season, they were less than 30%. They were about 28% on penalty kills. Comparing them to an Anaheim Ducks that was over 50% in penalty kills. That matchup alone is too much, because if throughout the regular season, an average team would definitely have done between 24 and 28%. So it meant that even the Oilers team were just an average team, all throughout the regular season, which means that they could not, even if they're having a 5-by-4, especially when the team has more players than you are not able to still keep it together. It means that the defensive structures keeps falling down anyhow. Now, a lot of people are saying the Oilers couldn't play well. They played well because they were scoring goals. The only problem is they were not defending well. For each of the games, they were scoring an average of 3 to 4 goals in that entire series. And the thing is, 90% of the time, they were up before the third quarter. Some of them, they were up even before the second period. The reason why is because they are scoring early goals, but they are not defending. They are not able to keep that defensive structure from the beginning to the end. And that was a big problem for them. So those are some of the things that they will take as feedback as they go into other parts of the rebuild, going into postseason and, all those other things that they need to work on. Number two, if you look at the contract situation, Jared Tristan, who is the goaltender that they brought from the Penguins, has committed to a long-term contract. Leon Draisaitl is on a 7-year, 112 million contract. I don't see him coming out of that contract anytime soon. So if you look at the entire structure for those players, they already have some kind of idea of what the future is going to look like. But it's only Connor McDavid that we are really not sure, because we don't know whether he's going to commit to a long-term contract or whether he's going to stay or whether he's going to go. A lot of people really don't know what he really wants to do next. But one thing I can say clearly is an Oilers team is well respected across the hockey league. They are definitely going to be a team that will make noise even in the foreseeable future. Even though the last time they won a championship or they were in the final of a championship was, I think, 1993, and the fans are really gunning. They really want a cup to come back to Edmonton. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. However, next year there are going to be some structural changes. I have information that they're going to make structural changes. Stan Bowman has to think deep. I hope Stan Bowman is able to keep his job, but there's going to have to be some structural changes going into the rebuild. And now those players have enough time to recover, going through what I call deep reflection, try to see how they can spend some time with their family, go for holidays, just enjoy themselves, spend some time with their family and try and see how they can start the new season going into 2026, 2027 for the new season. So that being said, I just wanted to look at the table and talk a little bit about what the structure is going to look like. So right now, Edmonton Oilers are out. They were defeated by the Anaheim Ducks, and the Anaheim Ducks have gone into second round, which will be starting with a good performance from them. Carlson has been a big improvement on that team. Right now, the Avalanche is the team that everybody's looking at. They've defeated the LA Kings. They defeated them 4-0 in their last game, and they beat them 4-0 in the entire series, which means they won all their games so far in the postseason. They look like a team that can really challenge for the cup this season. And the good thing is I'm happy if the winner comes from the West. I'm really, advocating for the winner of the Stanley Cup to come from the West. The East has produced a winner in the last 2 years, but we want a team from the West to win. Even if the Oilers don't win it, a team from the West should win it. The Avalanche look like they have a lot of energy. Yesterday I watched their game against the Minnesota Wild. It was a game that had a lot of goals. I think they ended up finishing that game 9-7 or thereabouts. Yeah, they finished that game 9-7 yesterday. It had too many goals, and I was looking at it. I was like, what is really happening? In hockey today, you need to score more goals to be able to ensure. Okay, it ended 9-6. I'm correcting that now. You need to score a lot of goals to be able to remain relevant in hockey today, because they have good goaltending in Wedgwood. They also have very good players, McKinnon, and injury is not really their problem. And they still ended up scoring 9 goals to be able to beat a very good Minnesota Wild team. So it means that the league is changing. Whoever wants it more is the only one that keeps fighting. If you look at the second series, Minnesota was able to defeat the Dallas Stars conveniently 4-2 in the series, and that's why they are facing the Avalanche. But I think the Colorado Avalanche is going to make it very easy and defeat the Minnesota Wild. They're not going to have any issues as far as I'm concerned, because they are playing with a different kind of energy. And the Vegas Golden Knights, I wanted the Edmonton Oilers to meet this team because they kind of understand the Vegas Golden Knights a bit better positioning in the regular season. Vegas Golden Knights had to go and play the Utah Mammoth, while the Oilers went to face the Ducks. But so far, if you look at the Golden Knights generally, they beat the Utah Mammoth 4-2 in the series. Utah Mammoth is a team that is less than 3 years old. They just came, it's a new expansion team. Going into the playoffs for the first time shows that they have a good coach, a coach that really understands them, and they try their best, but the experience of the Golden Knights came on board and helped them to defeat the Utah Mammoth. And now the Golden Knights will be facing the Anaheim Ducks. That will be a tough one because the Anaheim Ducks is a young team playing very fast. They were just too fast for the Oilers. But hopefully we're able to see how they're able to push a bit more. And I see the Golden Knights going to go and face the Colorado Avalanche in the Western Conference Final. Hopefully they're able to finish it in less than 7 games, because I see Colorado Avalanche trying to finish up this Minnesota Wild in 6 games because they are playing at a very fast pace. But a major factor in the Colorado Avalanche behaving or keeping up with their championship status, because they were the best team in the regular season. For them to be able to continue like this, they need Maka to play at a very high level. Maka scored 2 goals for them. The Kadri, who they bought from the Calgary Flames, also played very well in their game against the Minnesota Wild. The problem with them was they were scoring so many points, but the Minnesota Wild kept coming back. They couldn't put them away. So it means that this Minnesota Wild is a dangerous team if you don't score enough goals. You have to either improve in your defense, but for a Maka to come from the wings, to come and score 2 goals to help them win, it means that it's very, very important. It was a good coaching decision to bring him in, and he was able to make that difference happen. So that's it on the Western Conference. If you look at the Eastern Conference generally, it's a bit different because we are seeing a lot of new teams come up. Montreal Canadiens, I put up their picture because I was so excited about them. I'm happy with the way they are pulling up. That's the only team that is going to be able to give Canada some kind of hope. And they have a young coach, Martin, doing so well. The guy is a tactician. Even though he's 50 years old, he's not really young, but this is one of his biggest jobs so far since when he stopped playing. And he has been with this team for about 4 years. The first 3 years with the team, they did not even go past the first round. But this time around, he's going into the second round. And he beat a very, very difficult team, which is the Tampa Bay Lightning. I did an analysis on why I feel that the Canadians will get to a conference final and face most likely an Hurricanes team. But I'm going to come back to the reason why I feel that they should be able to make very easy of the Buffalo Sabres, which is the team they'll be facing in the second round. But first of all, if you look at it, the Lightning and the Canadians was one of the toughest first round I've seen in a long time, ended in a game 7. Fortunately, Kucherov had a bad night, with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have a coach that has been in the league for a very long time. So I can tell you that it's a very well-coached team. They have Kucherov, they have Agel, and they also have Vasilevsky, one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. But still, they couldn't get it done because it takes a lot more than just having a very good goaltender. You need to have grit, and you need to be able to have a team that can last, the entire the entire series. You need that resilience to be able to get it done. But congratulations to the Montreal Canadiens that they were able to go this far. The Hurricanes were able to make it very easy against the Senators. I said it, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. The Senators were not ready. Coming into postseason as a wild card means that you are not ready. It means regular season they were struggling. They also had good goaltending, but not at an elite level. That was why they were defeated 4-0 in the entire series. They were swept by the Hurricanes, and it's quite unfortunate that they have gotten into this situation. The most interesting matchup in this entire hockey postseason that I saw in the first round was the Penguins. The Penguins playing against the Flyers. The Philadelphia Flyers, they look more like a team that a lot of people were sleeping on. And that's why they were able to defeat the Penguins. Penguins were dealing with some issues. Crosby, who is the clear head of the team, was dealing with injuries, but he was able to come back in time to help them in the postseason. And they were almost swept by the Philadelphia Flyers until when they tried to win 2 games to force a game 7, but they couldn't just get it done. The last game was very good. Shout out to the Philadelphia Flyers. They won 1-0, and it also helped them, move to the next stage. Now they're also digging it out with the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes look like they want it more, and they will most likely defeat the Philadelphia Flyers and get to the Eastern Conference final against a Canadian team. I did some analysis, and I wanted to touch on the reason why I feel that the Montreal Canadiens should be able to defeat the Buffalo Sabres. Number one, Buffalo is badly injured. They have a lot of their top players injured. Auslund is injured. Sam Carrick is injured. We have Jiri Kulich injured. And we have Justin Danforth. They are all not at 100% and they've been ruled out for the second round. So this is a good pathway for the Montreal Canadiens to just win because it kind of forces Buffalo to shorten their bench a bit. So they have to work harder and rely heavily on their top line. And if this is very, very dangerous for a team like Buffalo Sabres, which in the beginning of the season, the way they started, it was looking like they were going nowhere, but they caught fire towards middle of the season. And right now, they're at second stage because they were able to make easy of their first round as well. But Montreal should be able to beat these guys. The second reason I put on my analysis is Montreal has survived a tougher opponent in their first round, which is the Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a much tougher opponent than Buffalo Sabres. And Montreal has survived them with a lot of young core, with the way the young guys are playing, with Stavlovsky, or Nick Suzuki playing at a very high level. All those guys, they've done well. Then Jacob Dobbs has improved. He's entering this series with a 2.033 on GAA and 0.923 on save percentage. So Dobbs should be able to help them in this series. That's elite performance by a rookie goaltender for that matter. Buffalo has Luukkonen, you understand, and he sits at about 4.20 on GA at 0.825 percentage. That's a massive gap. So it means that if you look at matchup between goaltenders, Dobbs goes into this series more motivated to win. Montreal has a young team, Nick Suzuki, less than 27, Pavlovsky, less than 27. A lot of their key guys, they are playing very, very well at a high level. Even their goaltender too is less than 27. So it's a young team. And I think they are ready to be able to go deep into the playoffs. The third part is goaltending is also an edge, which I just talked about. Montreal is a special team. They are stronger. If you look at some of their percentages all throughout the season, they rank 5th in power play percentage, about 9.2%. That they are 10th on penalty kill, about 82.8%, compared to even an Oilers that is on about roughly less than 30%. So they've been an average team all season. Buffalo that they are facing, they rank 16th on the power play, which is about 4.2%. So if you look at it generally, they are dead last on playoff teams, generally. And they are 6th on penalty kills, generally. So if Buffalo can score on that man advantage, Montreal can dictate the pace and still even gain momentum, while sometimes they can be short-handed. So if you look at the face-off dominance, generally, Montreal is a team that is more prepared. They are doing about 55.6% of face-off, and they are third in the playoffs right now, while Buffalo sits at 43.8%, and they are 15th. So there's a big gap in those two teams. The reason why this matters is because when you're looking at Montreal's top line, we have Slavkovsky, we have Suzuki, we also have Caulfield. Those 3 young guys, they thrive when they start in the puck. When you start them in any match, those guys will always thrive. So that's why they are going into this more motivated than ever. And I really like what I'm seeing from them. Montreal's defensive structure matches well with Buffalo's style. I've looked at Buffalo's style and I came up with my analysis. I see that Buffalo, they're able to generate high volume. You understand? On their shot attempt, they are doing about 31.7 per game, while Montreal allows only 28 shots on average. Even though in that game 7 they just played against Tampa Bay, they had 9 attempts and they scored 2 goals. That is the shortest number of attempts in a game 7 that I've seen in a very long time. So it means that they are very effective with the little chances they have. 9 shots compared to the 12 and above, which Tampa Bay had if you are looking at each of the periods. So they are a top 10 defensive team, which is the Montreal team, and the ability to kind of limit high danger chances, I believe they can neutralize Buffalo much better. Shout out to the Montreal team. Even though I support the Oilers, but we just have one more Canadian team left, and that's the Montreal Canadiens. We have to give them all the support we can give as they go into this matchup, you know. Anaheim Ducks is another team on the west side that I feel that they have a younger team that looks like a Montreal kind of structure, but beating the Colorado Avalanche will come at a lot of cost. I don't see them, you know, defeating, you know, the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado Avalanche is a team that is smelling blood right now. They have the depth. The fact that they went for a pickup like Kadri from the Calgary Flames really improved the team. They have Makar. Makar played so well in the Olympics. They have McKinnon. They have top players, as in they are just so good. And their bench is almost like their bench can defeat a lot of other teams, even within the NHL. So shout out to them. Hopefully they're able to get it done. And this is just more of a wrap up of how the second round is going to be like. I've used that opportunity to come up with some of the best teams. I see Hurricane defeating the Flyers in second round. The Canadians will defeat the Buffalo Sabres. And shout out to the Buffalo Sabres. Their first round was also good, even though they got a lot of their players injured. They defeated the Boston Bruins, a very good team that also improved in the second half of the NHL season. So as they go into this, I really wish them the best. And I see second round, you know, getting less game 7 like we had in the first round. First round, we have some game 7s, we had some game 6. But right now, in this, first round, we had more of that. But this second round, we won't really have much game 7 because a lot of top matchups happened, you know, in the first round, and it will go as planned generally. So we're going to come again next week to kind of just analyze where we are in the second round. Thank you very much for staying till the end. I just said I should run through some quick analysis. Enjoy the rest of the day and God bless.